What if I told you that one poet's words have been posted on more refrigerators, shared in more grief counseling sessions, and recited at more graduations than any other contemporary writer? What if I told you that this same poet became America's best-selling poet by doing something radical, paying attention? This is the extraordinary story of Mary Oliver and the poems that taught us how to live. Picture this, 1935. A young girl in Maple Heights, Ohio, escapes her troubled home by disappearing into nearby woods. She builds huts from sticks and grass, creating sanctuaries where she feels safe. And in these quiet moments among the trees, she begins to write. She has no idea that these early scribbles will become some of the most beloved poetry in American literature. She doesn't know that her simple observations about grasshoppers and wild geese will help millions of people navigate their darkest hours. That girl was Mary Oliver, and she would spend the next 8 decades teaching us that salvation can be found in the smallest details of the natural world. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? That single line from The Summer Day has probably changed more lives than most self-help books. It's been tattooed on arms, carved into wedding rings, and whispered as final words in hospital rooms. But why? What makes Mary Oliver's poetry so uniquely powerful? The answer lies in something we've almost forgotten in our digital age: the art of paying attention. Mary Oliver didn't just write about nature. She became nature's translator, turning bird songs into human wisdom, transforming morning dew into spiritual awakening, and converting forest walks into life philosophy. Her childhood was marked by what she later called a very dark and broken house. But instead of being crushed by this darkness, she made a choice that would define her entire life. She turned toward the light. Literally, every morning she would walk, for hours, through Ohio woodlands, along Cape Cod shores, into Florida mangroves. She walked until walking became a form of prayer, observation became meditation, and poetry became her way of sharing what she discovered. "I don't know exactly what a prayer is," she wrote in The Summer Day. "I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed." This is the secret of Mary Oliver's genius. She understood that attention is the highest form of love, and she loved the world so fiercely that it saved her life. Let's explore the poems that captured millions of hearts and discover why Mary Oliver's voice remains more relevant than ever. Wild Geese begins with 4 words that have liberated countless souls. You do not have to be good. In a world obsessed with perfection, productivity, and constant self-improvement, Mary Oliver offers radical permission. You don't have to walk on your knees through the desert, repenting. You don't have to earn your place in this world. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. This poem speaks to everyone who has ever felt unworthy, everyone who has been told they're not enough, everyone carrying shame about their imperfections. Oliver reminds us that while we're busy punishing ourselves, the world goes on. The sun moves across landscapes. Wild geese call to each other in the clean blue air. And most importantly, no matter how lonely we feel, we belong to the family of things. The family of things, what a phrase. We're not separate from nature, struggling against it or trying to control it. We're part of it, connected to every bird, every tree, every river. Our place in this world isn't something we have to earn. It's something we already possess by virtue of being alive. When Death Comes is perhaps Oliver's most profound meditation on mortality. But instead of being morbid, it's wildly life-affirming. She doesn't fear death as much as she fears not having truly lived. When it's over, I want to say all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. Married to amazement. What would our lives look like if we approached each day as if we were married to wonder? If we treated every sunset, every conversation, every ordinary moment as a reason for gratitude? Oliver understood something most of us forget. Amazement is a choice. In a world full of reasons for despair, she chose to be astonished by beauty. And that choice, that daily decision to notice, to appreciate, to celebrate, that's what made her life worth living. The Summer Day contains what might be the most important question ever asked in poetry. What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? One wild and precious life. Not your boring life, not your difficult life, not your disappointing life, your wild and precious life. The poem begins with seemingly simple observations about a grasshopper. Oliver watches this creature clean her face, snap her wings open, float away. And from this tiny moment, she extracts profound wisdom about attention, presence, and purpose. She doesn't know exactly what a prayer is, but she knows how to pay attention. She knows how to be idle and blessed. She knows how to stroll through fields instead of rushing through life. And then comes that question. That beautiful, terrifying, life-changing question that forces us to confront our own mortality and possibility. What are you doing with this one chance you've been given? This one irreplaceable, unrepeatable existence? Are you paying attention? Are you falling down into the grass? Are you allowing yourself to be amazed? Don't hesitate is Oliver's prescription for joy. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. In a culture that's suspicious of happiness, that tells us joy must be earned, or that feeling good when others suffer is somehow wrong, Oliver offers radical permission. When joy arrives, welcome it. Joy is not made to be a crumb, she reminds us. It's not something to ration or feel guilty about. Life has enough darkness, enough pain, enough reasons for despair. When moments of genuine happiness appear, our job isn't to question them. It's to surrender to them completely. The Uses of Sorrow contains one of the most beautiful truths about pain ever written. Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this, too, was a gift. This poem, which Oliver claimed came to her in a dream, acknowledges something most people try to deny. Suffering isn't just an unfortunate side effect of life. It's one of our greatest teachers. The darkness we receive, through loss, through heartbreak, through disappointment, comes disguised as punishment. But Oliver suggests it might actually be preparation. The pain that feels like it's destroying us might be the very thing that deepens our capacity for compassion, wisdom, and ultimately, joy. Invitation asks us a deceptively simple question. Do you have time to linger? In our world of endless busyness, constant connectivity, and perpetual hurry, Oliver invites us to pause for goldfinches singing in a field of thistles. These birds aren't performing for us, aren't trying to win anything. They're singing for sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say, it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in the broken world. A serious thing just to be alive. In the broken world, Oliver doesn't pretend the world isn't fractured, doesn't ignore the pain and injustice around us. But she insists that even in this brokenness, especially in this brokenness, being alive is sacred. The poem ends with a reference to Rilke, "You must change your life." But Oliver's version is gentler. She's not demanding dramatic transformation. She's simply asking us to pause, to notice, to attend to the ridiculous performance of birds singing for joy. Because sometimes witnessing beauty is enough to change everything. The journey speaks to anyone who has ever had to make the difficult choice to save themselves. One day you finally knew what you had to do, and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. This poem captures the moment when we stop living according to other people's expectations and start listening to our own deepest wisdom. The voices of family, society, fear, they all cry out, trying to keep us trapped in familiar patterns. But there comes a moment when the voice inside becomes stronger than all the voices outside, when we realize that our life belongs to us, when we understand that no one else can walk our path or make our choices. The journey is about the courage it takes to claim your own life, to disappoint people who want you to stay small, to risk everything in pursuit of who you're meant to become. Starlings in Winter transforms ordinary birds into symbols of resilience and grace. Oliver watches starlings move as one entity, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. But then she turns the observation inward. I am thinking now of grief and of getting past it. She wants to be like the starlings, light, frolicsome, improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing. This is what great poetry does. It takes something external and makes it internal. Something observed becomes something experienced. The starling's flight becomes a metaphor for healing, for moving beyond sorrow, for choosing life even after loss. When death comes, doesn't just contemplate mortality, it celebrates the kind of life that makes death lose its sting. Oliver wants to step through that final door full of curiosity rather than regret. She wants to have been a bride married to amazement, someone who took the world into her arms rather than holding it at a distance. She doesn't want to end up simply having visited this world. She wants to have lived in it, been part of it, loved it completely. This poem is a challenge, What kind of life will make you unafraid of death? What kind of love, what kind of attention, what kind of engagement with the world will leave you satisfied when the end comes? But Mary Oliver wasn't just America's nature poet. She was something much more important. She was our teacher of presence. In an age of distraction, she taught us to pay attention. In an age of cynicism, she taught us to be amazed. In an age of separation, she taught us we belong to the family of things. Her poetry doesn't require a PhD to understand. It doesn't need to be analyzed or deconstructed. It simply needs to be felt, absorbed, lived. Critics sometimes dismissed her work as too simple, too accessible, too sweet. But millions of readers understood what the critics missed. Simplicity is not the enemy of profundity. Accessibility is not the opposite of depth. Sometimes the most important truths are the ones that sound like common sense, but require a lifetime to truly understand. Mary Oliver won the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Award, and countless other honors. But her greatest achievement wasn't literary. It was spiritual. She taught us how to be human in a world that often makes us forget our humanity. She showed us that salvation doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic revelations. Sometimes it's as simple as watching a grasshopper clean her face. Sometimes it's as ordinary as walking in the woods. Sometimes it's as radical as choosing amazement over despair. "I got saved by the beauty of the world," Oliver once said. And through her poetry, she saved millions of others by teaching them to see that same beauty. Her poems appear on hospital walls and hiking trails, in therapy sessions and wedding ceremonies, in classrooms and boardrooms. They're shared by teenagers discovering poetry for the first time, and by hospice workers comforting the dying. Why? Because Mary Oliver understood something essential. We all need permission to slow down, to pay attention, to feel wonder. We all need to be reminded that we belong here, that our lives matter, that the world is full of gifts waiting to be noticed. In our age of climate crisis and environmental destruction, her poetry feels more urgent than ever. She reminds us that we are not separate from nature, but part of it, that what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. That falling in love with the natural world isn't just aesthetically pleasing, it's essential for our survival. But perhaps most importantly, Mary Oliver reminds us that it's never too late to begin paying attention. It's never too late to choose amazement. It's never too late to step into the fullness of our one wild and precious life. So here's my invitation to you. Take a walk today. Not for exercise, not for efficiency, not to get somewhere else. Take a walk for the sake of walking. Pay attention to what you see. Notice what notices you back. Find one thing, just one thing, that fills you with wonder. A bird, a flower, the way light moves across water, the sound of wind in trees. And ask yourself Mary Oliver's life-changing question. What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Because somewhere in that question, somewhere in that walking, somewhere in that attention, you might just find what Mary Oliver found. Salvation in the beauty of the world. The grasshoppers are waiting. The wild geese are calling. The invitation is always there. The only question is, will you accept it? Find the complete collection of Mary Oliver's most beloved poems with detailed analysis of their meaning. Beautiful nature photography, perfect for meditation. Printable quotes for your daily inspiration. And more soul-nourishing poetry recommendations at hookedtobooks.com. Your journey into the wild and precious life starts with your very next breath of wonder.